Applying to the Arts Council Library Fund gave us the opportunity to think about our libraries and our collections in a very new and exciting and dynamic way. We initially looked at using library spaces for performances or interactive activities, but we decided that we wanted to go in a new direction and look at our collections instead. The Alfred Watkins collection, and particularly his beekeeping collection, is very historic and unique, but very static because it's housed at Hereford Library and stays there. So the Outrider project allowed us to get out the collection to artists and to the public in a new way. And we wanted to engage the public in creating parts of the project and responding to what they saw, particularly with young people, in creating pieces that could go in an exhibition. Where we needed help to put the project together was with knowing who was out there, the arts organisations who were out there, and people with the knowledge. So on this occasion we were approached, which was fantastic. Another time, if we were doing something similar, then we would probably hunt around looking at all sorts of different artists. Luckily in Herefordshire we do have a network of artists that we can go to find out more, but it is that research I think is important to think about the different art forms that we might want to use.
Alfred Watkins was a Hereford man, a very well-known Hereford man. He was a photographer, an inventor, a businessman. He was part of the Woolhope Club, and he was a beekeeper. He started the Herefordshire Beekeeping Association. Alfred Watkins collected a lot of beekeeping books and took lots of photographs of beekeepers, and he bequeathed them to Hereford Library when he died. He was also a man who wrote about ley lines. He was the first person to talk about ley lines, and he wrote a book called The Old Straight Track.
My name is Dr. Sally Payan. I was artist curator. I found it a really exciting opportunity, and for me, the whole thing started with the visit to the storerooms under the library. And the chance conversation with Anne-Marie, whether or not they had anything more to do with Alfred Watkins and beekeeping, as I'd seen the one photograph of the bee van. The bee van used to go around lots of villages at the turn of the century teaching people about better ways of beekeeping, so they didn't have to kill them. So I just wanted to see what, had this chance conversation about, was there anything else like that? And then Anne-Marie said, well, actually, we've got loads of books donated from Alfred Watkins and loads of his photographs. So I remember the first time I was taken down there with Jamie, and they're just kind of all these shelves of amazing books, like objects, and it felt that they hadn't really been looked at in decades. And so that was kind of quite a thrill. For an artist, it's a real thrill to find something that hasn't been explored. The whole kind of tactile feeling of working with a collection, and bringing something that was embedded in humanity at one point and bringing it back to life again, in a sense, is very exciting. I feel that the desire as artists was really to be responsive to the collection as objects, as things from the past, but how it can open up our imagination. So it wasn't so much about generating lots more things with words in. It was about generating tactile, emotive responses, because I feel that moves people more.
Could you tell us how you went about selecting the other artists for the exhibition, please?
Well, I decided that it would be democratic to do an open submission. So I wrote a brief and sent it out to as wide networks as possible in order to see who was out there. In a sense, like we found the collection, it was about finding a new network of artists. So yeah, I put a huge effort into using all different kinds of networks, and we actually received over 76 applications for artists who are interested in the project, and that include lots of young artists straight out of art school as well. There was always another desire to work with local artists who might have been educated through the local art school and ones in Worcester and Birmingham, and to mentor young artists and to create a network of artists of, people of all ages really, and that's what we achieved. It was quite satisfying. I think I did have a kind of an idea about how it could be, in the sense that as it's a library project and it's travelling to other venues that include libraries and museums, and it's not about white walls, there was always that feeling that a lot of the work would be small and it would be going into these specially commissioned cases. So in a sense, I'm already starting with this limitation of things going in the case, but and I did have a vision of the kind of work that might go in them, but once the applications all came in, I was kind of blown away into a whole new direction, which was actually really exciting. The whole thing was really surprising, and the 5 main commissions, it was incredibly easy to pick them, really. It was like receiving treasure in my email account. The 5 artists I selected, as soon as I opened their applications, I immediately thought that I really liked them, and I could just see how they would all work together. In a sense, as an artist curator, I'm using my intuition and my just a hunch about things. Some of the artists already had made a lot of work about beekeeping, but they hadn't had the opportunity to work in depth with a collection. So it was kind of very easy to, work with those artists. I feel really proud of the whole thing, really. And also, I really loved a lot of the work in the show.
Why is it important? What's the point of commissioning artists to make an exhibition, to make new work, and to put that work alongside parts of this historically important collection?
It's crucially important because artists have innate vision themselves, and working with a collection really brings things to life. It breathes life back into something that had seemed dormant in the basement of the library, unused, dormant, with piles of dust on. As a sense, in a way, there's 9 artists that have dynamically examined the collection in very different ways, and have breathed new life back into it, but at the same time, showing that we are suffering the same ignorance and problems as over 100 years ago. We still have the same problems and worries about beekeeping in this world. So it's kind of, it reveals that humans do go around in cycles with the same problems, but there's still the same hope as well, the same hope that people can make the right decision for the future.
Well, as an artist, I was drawn to Alfred Watkins. He was obviously kind of fascinated with bees, and he amassed this internationally, probably, but certainly nationally significant collection of beekeeping books. Being an environmentally aware, conscious artist, wanting to do something positive about the world and wanting to raise awareness about issues through art, through culture, this seemed really significant because, of course, bees are dying internationally, have been for years, and there's a big debate going on about that. So doing a project like this would raise those questions and hopefully people start thinking about what's happening to bees, how we need to protect them, why is it happening, and again, challenging these preconceptions and ideas that we have culturally that this is true and this isn't true, when someone like Watkins would perhaps raise these questions, say, well, look again, perhaps this is something else here. What was in your mind when we as artists came to you and said, we're artists, we want to work with Watkins collections? What did you think? What was your kind of reaction?
I thought it would be really interesting to see what kind of exhibition the artists would come up with using the books and the pictures. I've always been really passionate about a lot of Alfred Watkins pictures, particularly of beekeeping, and currently there's a big emphasis on the problems that are happening with bees, and I feel like art is the way to get the message across to people. But it felt like a way of using the books and bringing them to the public in a new way. Instead of them just languishing in the basement of Hereford Library, they could be brought out into the open, looked at and expressed in a different way, and then perhaps people would come and ask more questions and come and look at all of the other books in the Herefordshire collection of old books.
What's been the reaction from staff here and visitors to the exhibition?
Well, we had really positive feedback from a lot of the visitors. They thought the quality of the artistic work was excellent, really excellent and very different. We don't do that many exhibitions, so it felt like very high quality, and so many people got involved with the community arts aspect of the project as well. It just felt it felt very inclusive, and a way of people using their local library in a different way, not just coming in to borrow their books, but coming in to find out more about the place they live in, Hereford, and the history of Hereford.
As an artist, it's important to involve people in the making of work alongside artists, because creativity is something that's important to everyone, and in order for people to get an understanding of a project, actually being involved in the making of work is kind of really powerful, especially if, and we've tried to do this in this exhibition, we work with people who don't normally have the access to art, to contemporary art, don't normally go to galleries, don't normally meet artists, let alone work with them, and certainly don't get their ideas shown in a creative way. Perhaps everyone learns and responds to things differently, and some people learn and respond really well through visual means, and certainly kind of working with people who haven't had the opportunity to do that before is really satisfying for an artist. And there was we worked with about over 100 young people in different schools, and also a home education group in Hereford. And there was someone called Livy who was at Elston School, and she was really pleased with the opportunity to do a piece of art that will be shown across England. I mean, to do that alongside contemporary artists really stays with you. And so even just the dynamic of working with one person, let alone over 100, on a project that they can go and talk to their parents about, their families, their friends. It really it is quite empowering. And I think for an artist, it means that you're working with audiences who perhaps don't understand contemporary art, but only because they haven't come across it much. And so if we can work with them on making that art, they suddenly become the participants in art, and they can go to exhibitions if they see it again, and they'll have a handle on it, they'll understand it a bit more. And then there was the quilting group that happened in the library, which Anne-Marie organised. So what did you find the feedback, or what did people get from the quilting group?
Well, the quilting group was really exciting for a lot of women that come to the library. I found that quite a few people just suddenly turned up, and many of them had very good skills of embroidery, and that many of them had done quilting before, but some had just come to learn for the first time. And the work they produced was stunningly beautiful, and I think so many of them were really pleased to be able to have the quilt displayed in all sorts of places. It looked absolutely amazing at the Hive in Worcester, and in some of the other exhibition spaces that it was shown in. Some of the women really emphasised how much they'd enjoyed being part of the group, and when the quilt project was finished, they wanted to carry on coming to the library, making more things. So we developed another group, a drop-in sewing and knitting and crochet group, so that more women could come along and share their skills and work on other projects. We had a number of home-educated children that don't get together very often. They're often separate, learning at home with their parents. And the feedback we got was that they really enjoyed spending time together and working together, and having the opportunity to do something quite exciting which was the cyanotype printing, which turned out beautifully. And then many of the children came to the exhibition in the library when the quilt that they'd made together was being exhibited. And it was something they were really proud of. In fact, one of the parents asked for a copy of the poster that we were using, because she said her daughter was so pleased to be part of something much bigger, something that she'd never been involved with before, which was an art exhibition.